Welcome to the Cloud Deployment Models Practice Lab. This will be an introduction on cloud deployment methods. So the learning outcomes in this module, you will complete the following exercises. Exercise 1, exploring cloud service providers. Exercise 2, exploring private clouds. And after completing this module, you should be able to define and describe different cloud deployment models, navigate the Azure portal, create a private cloud infrastructure using Hyper-V. So the exam objectives would be compare and contrast the different types of cloud models, deployment models such as public and private, service models, which is community, cloud within a cloud, multi-cloud, and multi-tenancy. So lab topology, during the session, you will have access to the following lab. So for topology 1, we have the Azure Workstation. For the topology 2, we have the domain controller, the server, and the workstation. Depending on the exercise, you may or may not use all of the devices, but they are shown here in the layout. So, exercise 1, exploring cloud development models. In its simplest form, the cloud is a vast network of devices used to pool resources together for use by end users for many different applications, such as general file storage to hosting thousands of servers. Due to many attractions of cloud environments, many companies exist that provide these services, known as cloud service providers or CSPs. Most popular CSPs are Amazon Web Service, AWS, and Microsoft Azure, both owned and operated by two US-based corporate monoliths, Amazon and Microsoft. And then furthermore, there are three different types of cloud known as deployment models. And these are, number 1 is the private cloud, also referred to as a corporate or internal cloud. A private cloud is owned and operated by a single organization. If the cloud infrastructure remains on premise, the organization acts as its own cloud service provider. Number 2 is public cloud. Services such as apps, servers, and data storage are made available by cloud service providers such as Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, and Google Cloud. Using this model, clients share resources such as hardware by pooling all available resources and allocating only the amount each needs. And then we have the hybrid cloud. A hybrid cloud infrastructure is a combination of a public and private cloud where the services that are provided are shared between the different infrastructures. For community cloud, users share the same set of data and resources. Multiple parties access it. For example, a cloud deployed for the students at a university or a college would normally be a community cloud accessed by all students. So an option when building an infrastructure is nesting a virtual private cloud or VPC inside an existing cloud, which then performs the same function as a separate cloud solution. This is known as cloud within a cloud and is very popular in real-world private infrastructures due to the lower overhead costs. For example, it is common for businesses to host a private cloud using resources provided by a public cloud subscription. These types of cloud are not used by multiple tenants. Similarly, there are also options for organizations to use multiple types of clouds at once, known as a multi-cloud, typical within community clouds. These solutions typically combine different services and deployment models depending on what is needed at any given time. For example, an organization such as a school could host software as service or SaaS resources as part of an organization wide cloud subscription used by the faculty and then utilized a separate cloud for students. So there is also the concept of multi-tenancy in which different users of a private cloud provider access the same computing resources. This is synonymous with public solutions in which different customers around the world are utilizing the same servers to create their resources, although each user or tenant's data is kept fully separated and isolated from others using the same and physical hardware. Okay, so in this exercise, we will investigate an example of a public cloud in Microsoft Azure. So we will be defining and describing different cloud deployment models and navigate the Azure portal. Now we will be using this device. Okay. So task 1 would be navigating the Microsoft Azure portal. The Azure portal is a web interface used to create and manage Azure cloud resources and is an example of a public cloud infrastructure. In this task, the Microsoft Azure portal will be explored to better understand how to create and maintain cloud infrastructure resources. So step 1, connect to PLAB Win 10. And okay, step 2 would be from the taskbar, select the Microsoft Edge. When opening the browser, it will redirect you to the Azure portal and sign in automatically. An Azure subscription will be provided for all lab activities that utilize the Azure platform. Note that in a real world scenario, either a subscription will need to be purchased or will already exist as part of existing company infrastructure. Now, step 3, in the top left-hand corner of the Azure portal, select Show Portal. Show Portal menu. From the portal menu, select Dashboard. Now the dashboard page gives an overview of all resources and services that have been created for the subscription. The dashboard can be customized according to a user's needs by adding shortcuts to resources that might be used more often than others. As this subscription contains no resources, the dashboard will be empty. Now, in a real-world environment, you will see multiple resources for multiple resource groups depending on your role and internal permissions. So from the My Dashboard page, click Show Portal menu again and select All Services. All Services. Step 6. In the left-hand pane of All Services page, under Categories, select General. General. Step 7. In the same left-hand pane, select Compute. Note that in Compute section, various options are available for creating computing resources in the Azure infrastructure. These resources are classified as infrastructure as service, which will be investigated more in a future module. Okay, step 8, in the left-hand pane, select Networking. In the networking section, different virtual networking components are listed. These components connect virtual devices to facilitate communication between these devices. Step 9, in the left-hand pane, select Storage. Now in the storage section, various storage components of the Azure platform are displayed. These storage components include creating storage for virtual machines or creating storage that will be accessible in the cloud. Step 10, in the left-hand pane, select Databases. Now in the database section, various options are available to create an infrastructure database. These can be classified as platform as service. When databases are created, there is no need for a server infrastructure as this will be maintained by Microsoft. Step 11, select Web. So in the web section, the available web application services that can be created on the Azure portal is shown. A company would create a web application hosted on Azure instead of acquiring and maintaining the physical infrastructure to host web servers. Microsoft manages and maintains these servers in the back end without any customer intervention. Power down Plab 10 and proceed to the next exercise. Okay, exercise number 2. Exploring private clouds. Outside of utilizing a public cloud subscription, an organization could also investigate ways to develop a private cloud infrastructure depending on their needs as a business. For example, a company that provides a web service or application to its user base may not wish to relinquish all trust to third party, especially around security and uptime areas. Therefore, it may pursue a private infrastructure instead. It entirely depends on the needs of the business. Instead of purchasing a subscription, an organization could instead invest in a physical hardware, typically multiple servers inside a data center, to use a platform for creating resources used by their employees or end user base. In this exercise, we will investigate and create a simple private cloud infrastructure using Hyper-V on Windows Server 2019. So learning outcomes: after completing this exercise, we should be able to create a private cloud infrastructure using Hyper-V. So task 1 is configuring a private cloud infrastructure in Hyper-V. Using tools readily available on Windows Server 2019, a typical operating system used in data centers, a private cloud can be created using virtualization software such as Hyper-V. These types of machines are known as virtual machines. In this task, we will be creating a simple private cloud infrastructure. Now let's power on this device. The Server Manager dashboard will open by default. Okay. Step 2, on the right hand side of the page, navigate to the Tools drop down menu and select Hyper-V Manager. Let's reconnect. Step 3 is the Hyper-V Manager window will now be displayed. Virtualization software such as Hyper-V allows users to easily create and spin up virtual machines, which can be used in multiple different ways. Picture this: instead of connecting to a server inside of a typical office environment, you have instead remotely connected to a server inside of a data center that different people inside of your organization can access. Therefore, any device created here can be used for multiple applications, making this a private cloud infrastructure. Now, step 4 is on the top left hand side of the page. Right click heading and navigate to New and Virtual Machine. New Virtual Machine. Now, in step 5, this will open the new virtual machine wizard. On the Before You Begin page, click Next. On the Specify Name and Location page, type the following into the name field. So, Lab Min 101. And leave all other options as default and click Next. Now, this name has been chosen as an example, although in a real-world scenario you may name the device according to an existing naming structure for the cloud or something defining its use, such as DevOps or software testing as an example. So on step 7, on the Specify Generation page, leave the options as the default and click Next. On the Assign Memory page, leave the options as the default and click Next. This section will allow you to assign the amount of virtual random access memory or VRAM to the device. The virtual memory is allocated from the host device and might impact its performance if too much memory is provisioned to the guest device. Let's click Next. Step 9 is from the Configure Networking page. On the Connection drop-down, select Microsoft Hyper-V Network Adapter Virtual Switch, and then click Next. Step 10 is on the Connect Virtual Hard Disk page. Leave the default option and click Next. As with the previous steps, this is just shown as an example, and in a real-world scenario, you would choose whatever is most appropriate for whatever type of resource you are creating for the cloud. Step 11, on the Install Options page, check the Install and Operating System from a bootable CD/DVD-ROM. And image ISO. Once done, click Browse. So the new virtual machine displayed shows the installation options page. Now, step 12, the File Explorer. You will navigate to the local disk, ISO, and then click the following. Once this file has been highlighted, click Open. Step 13, back on the Installation Options page, click Next. On the Completing the New Virtual Machine Wizard page, click Finish. This will now create the virtual machine. Step 15, once the window closes, the new PLAB 101 device appears in the virtual machines pane. Where is it? Yeah. Right click the device and then click connect. Step 16 would be click start in the middle of the window. 17, maximize the window. After a few moments, Windows will begin the installation process. It's still loading. So on step 18, after a few moments, the window setup should appear. Let's wait for it to load. Okay. So leave all options as the default and click next. On the following page, you will see that Windows is now ready to be installed on this virtual machine, as this is shown for an example and does not need Windows to be installed at this time. Click close on the navigation bar. This one. Close. Alright, this will return you to the Hyper-V Manager window. We're back. As discussed above, this is an example of how to create a single virtual machine using a standard operating system, depending on the organization's needs. However, you could instead build a variety of different machines here for different purposes, forming a private cloud. Keep all devices powered on their current state, and let's go to the review section. Okay, so in summary, we explored the cloud service providers and private clouds. And now we should be able to define and describe different cloud deployment methods, navigate the Azure portal, and create a private cloud infrastructure using Hyper-V. After we can just shut all virtual machines used in this lab. Alternatively, you can log out of the lab platform. Okay, let's just shut down. And then